How's it going, everybody? It is Ramp here, and we are bringing you a video that discusses the worst performing VR sim racing titles all the way through to the best performing VR sim racing titles. And I'm going to very quickly go through this list from worst to best. From my own personal experience with about a little over a year of VR and tweaking settings and fiddling with different INI files till I wanted to be not alive anymore. So I'm going to quickly go through this list. From my personal experience, it has no indication of how good the game is or what I think the actual gameplay is of the game. It's just talking about VR performance. So let's get into it. Alright, so we are going to start off here with the worst performing VR sim racing title. And we're going to talk about Assetto Corsa Competizione. This could change in the future. I really hope it does. I love the sound. I love the force feedback. I think the game would be fantastic on triples. I don't have triples anymore. I just use VR. And the game does not run well. I've checked like every 3 months. It's gotten better. It's a little bit better now, but it's just not where it needs to be if you want to play in VR and really enjoy it. Even people with 9900Ks are struggling to run ACC properly without spending an entire day in settings. It's a great game as far as its gameplay goes, but VR settings, they just need to optimize it more. It runs terrible. That's just the way it is, and it's a shame really for anybody that wants to play the game in VR. The next game we're going to talk about here is Race Room Racing Experience. I love Race Room personally, but it takes a lot of fiddling around with settings to get the game to run properly in VR. It uses Steam VR. It doesn't have a native Oculus mode or anything, so that doesn't help. Basically, the trick that I found, or the thing that made my life so much easier, was reducing the cars visible to like 12, and it's kind of a bummer because 12 cars is not that many. Sometimes you see them popping in and out. It's not super great, but that's because the game is on an older engine. The faster your single-threaded processing power is on your CPU, the better that Race Room is going to run in VR. And at the end of the day, you're always going to be CPU bottlenecked because the game is just. The bottom line is it doesn't run very well in VR. All right, so the next game we're going to get into here is R-Factor 2. R-Factor 2 is going to take some fiddling around, some tweaking, and this is probably the last game that's going to really require a lot of just pull your hair out kind of situations to get VR running at a steady 80 frames per second or 90 or whatever your refresh rate is for your headset. And it's an annoying thing to deal with. So those last 3 games that I listed, and it is what it is, you know, they're on old engines. I can't be too upset that, I mean, they brought VR to a very old engine. That's impressive as it is. Hopefully it improves over time. It's tolerable with the right settings, but you're going to have to tweak some stuff for a minute to get it to work properly. And we're just going to go right into the next game here is Assetto Corsa. And Assetto Corsa is where it starts to get a little bit easier, especially with tools like Content Manager. VR in Assetto Corsa has native Oculus support, so that's a big plus for me. You don't have to mess with Assetto Corsa for too long before you find some VR settings that are going to work for your system. I think it was implemented really well with that game, and it just goes to show it's a classic at this point, I guess, with its age, but it is one of the best racing games out there. The 5th game that I'm going to talk about is iRacing. iRacing is kind of like Assetto Corsa, where you're just going to need to go into the settings. You're going to need to bump some stuff down, but you're not going to spend all day experimenting, you know, seeing what does what. It's really not that bad. There are plenty of guides online, and you know, it's an easy game to run, and that's about it. I mean, it's not very hard to get going in VR, and none of the rest of the games that I'm going to mention are. So the 6th game that we have is Dirt Rally 2.0. Dirt Rally 2.0 is one of the easier sim, and Dirt Rally we could do them together. They're both extremely easy to run in VR. They both have native Oculus support. You launch in, you fiddle with, you know, some shadows, and you're off and running. You're at 80 frames, and it runs great in VR. I really can't complain. I know that it had its struggles when it first came out, but it runs great for me now in VR, and I would imagine that it's going to run great for most people as well. Now, these last two games are on the same engine. Coming in at the runner-up spot, I'm going to say Automobilista 2 is on the Madness engine, and it is running fantastic in VR. I think that because the game's still being worked on, you know, they got some bugs to fix and some optimizations to make. But after that, I think Automobilista 2 is going to be such a hassle-free game to run in VR. And that brings us into our last game, Project Cars 2. You know, say what you want about Project Cars 2 gameplay. Some people don't even consider it a sim. It's probably my least favorite out of all the ones I just listed right here. But the bottom line is, it is a hassle-free game to run in VR. It looks great. It runs in VR great. You know, if you are the kind of person that just wants to get in and race casually in VR and not spend a day on the settings, so you don't feel nauseous playing the game at 40 frames per second, you know, Project Cars 2 is the game for you. The force feedback and the physics and all that other stuff, I would say, aren't so great with Project Cars 2, but it runs great in VR, and that's all we're talking about here. So that's all that matters for this list. So anyway, that covers it. I think we did, what, 8 games, and hopefully this helps somebody. And, you know, I recommend you play all of the games that I just listed. I don't think any of these games are bad. I don't think any of these games are not worth playing. But, you know, if you're just getting started, you want to know what runs the best in VR, this is the video that should help you. Hopefully it does. And if you guys have any comments or any questions, you know, leave a comment in the comments down there, and throw a like on the video, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I will catch you guys in the next video.